Hello, my little lovers. Welcome to this exclusive Patreon episode where I hold down Andy Millman and praise him for 17 hours straight. Praise Millman! Praise him.
No.
Praise him.
No.
Andy!
Yes, Gruff. I was going to call you George. You're not George. You even
No.
you even said your name at the beginning of the show. As I don't know why I'd get you mixed up.
Well, just in case anyone gets confused, I'm Adam.
Are you?
Yes,
Okay.
This is Andy.
Hello.
Praise Millman.
Yay!
This week I praise Millman for the knowledge that Cloud has a counter.
He does. He does. If
Well-
you didn't know. Most people know, but if you didn't.
It'd be really weird if I got you to praise Millman as well.
That would be weird. Do you praise me by going to a swamp and setting up both bones and corn in a little Andy shrine and have little candles scented around it? Not scented, but little placed around it.
If it's not a bank holiday, then yes.
Because, you know, you've got a little, I wouldn't say a woodland area, but you've got a little greenery area where you could set up a Dark Harvest-esque little scene.
I mean, I could.
You don't have the time for it because you have 5,000 projects going on, but, you know.
Well, you know, I like to spend my weekends just hanging straw dolls from all the trees outside my house. And so when people walk past in the greenery and enjoying the sunshine and the sunlight and the play-ridden air, they look up to see all these judging eyes staring down at them. For each and every one of them has googly eyes.
Ooh, that's sinister. Those googly eyes can go anywhere depending on how they're shook.
Exactly. So you got handcrafted straw dolls just hanging by their necks, in a long pathway that leads through the woods, and then they've all got googly eyes.
What's the plant that they have down in like Orleans where it grows over the trees? It almost looks like the spider web effect.
Oh, the moss type stuff.
Yeah.
I can't remember off the top of my head, but yeah, I know what you mean.
Okay, as long as people know what I mean. I don't know how. You should import some of that and get it to just grow on your greenery section, because then it'll freak everybody out. Because I think that look is the look that Dark Harvest goes for. You can tell that shit would be all over the trees.
Absolutely. So yes, what we're going to do tonight is we're going to just discuss the book Dark Harvest, because both me and Andy thoroughly enjoyed this. The best way to describe it is it's a headlong descent into gothic horror. It goes places, man.
Is it AOS's best book at the moment? I wouldn't say Games Workshop as a whole, but because there's not a huge amount of AOS books specifically. Is it the best AOS book? Or the one that you enjoyed the most?
Oh, you see, right, you're putting it up against City of Secrets.
You're talking about actual books, aren't you, that you've read rather
than
just the audio ones?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're going up against City of Secrets, the other Talos and Tolliver book, the Silver Shard, which I really liked.
That was good.
See, I'm not a huge fan of the Stormcast books that came out at the beginning.
No, they're very
all right.
They're a setting, kind of safe setting.
Yeah.
Book.
Oh, there is the Nagash one. What's it called? No, not Nagash. The Soul Wars.
Oh, yeah. That was very good.
That was a pretty damn good book. But I think Dark Harvest might actually be my favourite AOS book so far.
Yeah, I think it might be mine as well.
Purely because of what it does and the elements it takes. So, I mean, Dark Harvest to me feels like what a early 90s Warhammer Fantasy Battle book tried to do. It's got more in common with stuff like Dragonfells and Silver Nails than it has with the Realm Gate Wars and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's one of the things I've said a lot about AOS is that I would prefer to see more stuff like this more feet on ground single character that isn't a magical musical monster.
Yeah, it's good. It's good realm building. We're obviously not world building because it's multiple worlds, and this is in Gyron. So it's good to kind of flesh out Gyron a bit more. There have been a few Gyron kind of location books, like the some of the Stormcast ones that you were talking about, where they were Stormcast versus the Nurgle faction. Those kind of dipped in a little bit to Gyron stuff, but it just kind of felt foresty. This kind of delves a bit more into the darker side. I think this might be one of my favorite because it's a good standalone. Like I don't feel you need to know anything about AOS at all and yet you'd be okay with jumping and reading it. Some terms like Sylvaneth and talking about Ghyran might be a bit confusing at first, but I think it does enough within the book to kind of get you up to speed for the most part.
Yeah, I agree there.
And there's no talk of like the greater war against the Chaos factions or anything like that, or the Soul Wars repercussions of Nagash setting off his little bomb. There's none of that really.
The Nagash stuff's in there. It's quite clever actually that it's in there, but it's only in the beginning of the book in the caravan sequence. Obviously, spoilers. We're not going to try and. Well, we are going to spoil tons of it, to be honest with you.
Yes,
yeah, if you haven't read the book, I'm going to leave the big spoilery parts till later on in the episode. But be warned, spoilers. So if you want to get into the idea of it, the feel of it, is it something that you want to read? Probably listen to the first 15 minutes of this. Go away, read the book, then come back.
I'll listen to it because it's on Audible as well.
Oh yeah, I've listened to it as well. But yeah, they talk about Elder Bones a lot in the caravan at the beginning of the book.
That's right.
Which is their name for Nagash.
That's right, yeah.
And they talk about how these ghosts keep appearing, these geists. Because if you remember, there's a bit where they slaughter one of the, what the hell they're called, the moss sheep. There's like sheep with horns. They're basically growing moss type texture out of them.
I'm sorry, I've got an image of these very cute, happy anime sheep with horns that are just like happily farming moss in fields with like little hoes, and then someone coming around shooting them with a bow.
Oh no, they slit its throat.
No! The poor happy sheep.
They fill up bowls and put it along the road to keep the geists away.
That's right, yes. See, I didn't take that as a Soul Wars thing. That to me just felt like a natural thing that happens within the realm, like, because death's everywhere. Obviously, even in the realm of life, there will be horrible. I mean, we know for a fact that in Wald and just around that road in general, bad stuff happens. As like the Sylvaneth will kill people who stray from the road, and sometimes even if they don't. So it doesn't shock me. I think it would feel to me more of a Soul Wars connection if there was a lot of them, and if they were specifically aggressive, because the Necro Quake kind of sent every spirit into a frenzy and got them all huffed up on like roids. And like it was a bunch of college kids going, "You can do it." They're like, "Oh yeah, we could do it, lads!" As they then went on a big kind of hoof. These just seem like a bunch of just normal ghosts kind of hanging about, going, "Hang on."
But they make a point of that there's more of them than there used to be.
Oh, okay.
And they make the point that I mean they put the bowls out before the sun goes down. That Juridin, the Fire Slayer, he actually says, it didn't used to be this way. It used to be that you'd put them out when the sun goes down. And he talks about how they mention in the book that there's loads of them, and most of them are very weak, sad things that just kind of hover at the roadside, just like looking at you. And he actually says the words. Occasionally, you see one of them trying to talk, which is one of the most upsetting things about them. So I think it is in there, but it's not part of that grander story. Yeah, the story is. Well, let's get into what the story is. So I've got the synopsis here. I did have the synopsis. Here it is.
I was waiting for a loud thud as like a tomes just put on your desk.
So the one second, let me just get my reading voice. The synopsis is: Harren Blackwood was a warrior priest of ruthless virtue. Now, he's a man with a scorched reputation, prowling the back alleys of Greywater fastness, content to fight the petty wars of racketeers for survival. But when a desperate message arrives from an old friend, Blackwood is forced to confront the past he thought long buried. Summoned to the isolated village of Wald, Blackwood sets off on a perilous trek to ensure the sins of his former life remain forgotten. He soon discovers that Wald is a hostile, secretive place with sins of its own. Deep in the murky marshes, where the cruel chants of village folk echo and the stink of death hovers low, Blackwood must channel his bitterness and rage to defy the ancient darkness that now hunts him before he is devoured, body and soul.
Yeah.
So, what I think the biggest question here is, what do you feel is the biggest takeaway from the book, from when you were going into it? When you open it up and you start reading through, because I remember starting it and just thinking, well, this is grimy, this is dark, this is unrelentingly awful.
I mean, it's not like a summer vacation place as Wald, if that's what you're suggesting. It's not somewhere you'd go and take the family. Depending how much you like your family. I guess my main takeaway was the massive screams of Shadow over Innsmouth that it gave off. There's a lot of Lovecraft to it, but not the kind of space horror Lovecraft.
No,
the Black Goat of the Forest kind of stuff.
Nice reference.
Yeah, I know a bit of Lovecraft. We've done a podcast on him.
We've done many.
Back in day, years ago at this point.
Yeah.
But I got a lot of that from it. I got a lot of the feeling of Resident Evil 4 when you go to the Ganado village for the first time. A lot of that.
Yeah.
I mean, this is kind of a trope of like going to an off the beaten path kind of village and everybody being kind of hostile and there being a cult going on and some nefarious things going on. It's not stuff that you haven't seen before, but I don't know because I haven't read a huge amount or listened to a huge amount of the Warhammer fiction. Has this been done before within the Games Workshop mythos in general? Do you know?
Yeah, it has.
Okay.
But it's not been done to this level of excellence, which I think is the point that needs to be made here. That, it's going through a lot of motions that you already know. A disgraced man going off to try and bury his past. Yeah, okay. Scary village full of evil secrets. Yeah, we've seen this 100 times. But what Josh Reynolds does here is he pulls everything together in such a way that you can't help but be creeped out by the very nature of what you're reading.
And he does a really good job describing everything. I felt it very easy to picture in my head of how everything probably should look.
Well, what does Wald have?
Not much.
Mud and eels.
Yeah, lots of eels.
That's the thing that they keep always bringing it back to. That's the two things that Wald has lots of. Wald has mud and eels.
And the eels are not just like eels. They're like, they sounded like quite big and aggressive.
Yeah.
They were yellow as well, weren't they?
They were, yeah.
Yeah, which is kind of interesting because I imagine the water was always a dark greeny colour. But then again, I imagine the atmosphere, like the air looked very green as well.
Yeah.
Like almost like a thick green fog just like was always lying down on the area. But I think
like
that's also to do with the cover for the book.
Oh, yeah. I wish that the cover was slightly bigger because I really want to see more of the guy wearing his hat.
Ah, yeah. Yes, he just kind of gives the artist gives more, I guess, just the silhouette of a standard kind of witch hunter look to him, I suppose, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Not that that's a bad thing, but yeah,
no, it's
I
a
would
beautiful
agree.
cover.
If there was a bit more, that would be nice as well.
I think from everything you've said then, it is a very Silent Hill type feeling. Mm-hmm. But I think the closest thing it probably has is something like The Ritual. This is what I would class it as being Age of Sigmar's take on The Ritual.
Yeah.
Because as we get along, there is some stuff in here which is really quite, right, that's not good, let's back away from that. In fact, here's a better idea, I'm going to sit here and wait to die.
You're right about the Ritual references as well, because there's a lot of dream sequences in that, and there are in this as well.
Mm-hmm. So, let's get into some spoiler territory.
Okay.
I think we've kind of explained the feel of the book and the nature of it and why should you read it. You should read it because it's a part of the Mortal Realms that hasn't really been explored yet, and it is a bloody good gothic horror book. Yeah,
it's hard. I'd say pretty hardcore horror. Mm-hmm. Pretty hardcore horror. It does a good job, like you say, setting a tense mood throughout.
Yeah. It's an unrelenting mood, is the word I would choose. At no point do you feel that you are safe.
No.
I mean, the swamps, they're basically I'm trying to think of a way of describing it. The soul sapping. The entire area, it just pushes you down. It's dour.
It's oppressive just because the swamp's all around you, and as I felt... the green hue in the air probably obscures any kind of natural, nice sunlight.
Yeah.
So there'd be that kind of lack as well. And just knowing that there's lots of things around you that want you dead, and then you're in a village that probably wants you dead as well, kind of puts you on edge.
So, let's get into it then. So if you haven't read the book and you want to read it, spoilers now. Going forward, spoilers. Spoil, spoil, spoil. Here come the spoilers. So the book begins with Harold? No, Harran.
Harold Blackwood.
I have to go into this. So throughout the book, Harran kept reminding me of another character, a character called Filthy Harrod, which is from Silver Nails. And yes, Filthy Harrod is a play on Dirty Harry.
That makes sense.
Silver Nails is a great book. It's one of the more bizarre werewolf stories I've ever come across. It's a werewolf story that's done as the Jack the Ripper investigations.
Oh, right, okay.
But set in Altdorf.
Yeah.
So it's a really good book. I like Silver Nails a lot. But anyway, so that's why I keep getting the name all baffled in my brain. He used to be a warrior priest of Sigmar, but something happened in a battle where he lost his faith and gained a real dislike of the Sigmarite faith. But he didn't turn to chaos. He didn't become an anti-Sigmarite. He just went, this isn't for me. I need to be away from this. And it's one of those things where you keep forgetting throughout the book that he was once a warrior priest. Yeah, he keeps mentioning these wonderful little moments of, all I have is my knife. I could pick up the hammer, but that reminds me of bad times. Yeah, and I always quite like that he forsakes something a bit more substantial than his knife because he doesn't want to be reminded. Because throughout the book he lies to himself constantly about who he is and what he's trying to do with his life.
Yeah.
And I think that's a really interesting way because it makes him a reliable narrator but an unreliable storyteller. So he narrates all the stuff that's happening around him, and you can believe it. But when he's talking about his own feelings and thoughts, you know that it's not entirely true.
Yeah, I see what you're saying, yes. Yeah. It's not a bad way to do a narrator, because when you have a completely unreliable narrator, everything comes into question, and it's good, I think, to have at least some of it, like, you know that he's telling the truth. And it
needs to be anchored.
Yeah. Like you say, when it's talking about the stuff around him, yeah, he's fine. Talking about his past, he doesn't enjoy that.
Well, it's not even his past, it's when he's talking about how he's reacting to stuff and how he would have reacted to stuff. Because his way of reacting and how he describes how he reacts is different throughout the book. It's not the same type of actions each time, unless it's cold-blooded murder. Then it's a good way of describing that is the guard that meets him when he comes off the boat, and his first reaction is just to embarrass the hell out of him. He just completely embarrasses him.
The guard was kind of asking for it, though.
Oh, yeah. The guard was being an absolute prick.
Yeah.
But then later on, when the guard comes back, it's much more of a, I will just murder you. I'm going to, go away now. Mm-hmm. Or else I'm going to skin you. And I think it's that kind of, you can kind of see the man he's meant to be versus the man he's become sort of fighting against each other throughout that. Which is kind of why he ends up getting chased through the forest. But there's a lot going on in this book that really fascinates me. How Wilde works. I want to say fortune teller, but that's not really what she is. The old woman with the boats.
Oh yes.
Yeah. She kind of like keeps popping up and doing things, and it's like, who are you and what are you? Yeah,
but then we find out she's just a normal woman, really.
Yeah.
She's just got connections to lots of other people, and everyone's got an eye on Blackwood.
Yeah, well, she's basically the criminal underworld go-to, isn't she?
Yeah, well, she's one of them. She's not the main underground boss guy.
No.
Whatever his name was. I can't remember.
We have to point out that it's been we were meant to record this a while back, and we haven't had the chance to get back into it, so we're kind of going off a lot of memory here.
Yeah, and there's no wiki entries on this stuff either, so we can't even look about what's this character called again? Oh, okay, we just got to remember.
But so you've got this entire caravan trip to begin with in the book, and the caravan trip is Harran moving towards Wilde because he gained this coin that was sent to him with a message. And because the coin had half of the face scratched out, he knows who sent it. He knows that it's been sent as a, come help me. It's an ask for reinforcements. And he's not going to reinforce. He's going to find the person who sent it and kill them so his memory, his history can be lost.
Wasn't it? He took it as a threat to begin with as well, and
Yeah,
assumed
the
it was
very-
a threat to expose them, since he is running from his past. Because where was he held up? Because he was not happy, but he was chilling out in one of the largest cities of Gyron, being a knee breaker for money.
Yeah, well, an arm breaker. Because
An arm breaker.
If you break somebody's legs, they can't work.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was working for the racketeers of Greywater Fastness.
That's right.
So, brain gone blank. So he makes his way along this caravan, and he meets a gambler named Gint, who is absolutely hilarious. I don't care what anyone says. A lot of the time, he really made me laugh, which is nice compared to everything else that happens in this book, which is just damp, sour dourness.
Mm-hmm.
And he meets a Duradin, a Fire Slayer, and the Fire Slayer kind of gives him a lot of alcohol and basically tells him that his entire species is weak, which is a really nice little sequence.
This is dwarfish, isn't it? That's what all dwarves do when they talk to humans.
But it's a really cool scene because it gives you the feeling of who Haran is. Haran turns away from a young lady who's trying to get his attention. You know, the Fire Slayer actually says to him, like, "You're not interested, lad?" And he just goes, "No, not tonight." That's not like your kind.
Yeah, that's our first bit of like Haran doesn't take shit, and he's interested in getting by, and that's it, nothing else. I imagine he doesn't have much joy in his life.
No. I mean, do you remember the sequence that came after that?
Not specifically, no.
The kill him quietly or not at all. I'm trying to sleep.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the Gint's having his gambling session and clearly cheating again.
Well, that's how he meets Gint. Do you find it interesting that he seems to see the Geists, like the weaker, smaller Geists, more than anyone else can?
That's not really explained why, though, is it?
No, it's not.
Yeah, it's just a thing he does. Maybe it's due to his traumatic past, or the amount of killing he did in general. Maybe brought him like closer, more empathetic towards seeing the Geists.
Mm-hmm. It's one of those weird things. Because they don't ever dig really deep into his past, you're kind of left with all of these little note bits just hanging around.
Yeah.
And I think it's very interesting, but I'm hoping that he comes back and does a bit more.
Oh yeah, I'd be disappointed if we didn't get like another tale of Haran doing something.
Yeah. I would like to see more of him because there's an evocative sense of darkness to him. Yeah. And the way it plays against the more creeping darkness of Wald and the darkness of the larger world, he interests me as a character. Like, very much interests me as a character.
Yeah, he was written well enough to make me want to see him again, care enough about him to be like, yeah, I can see him. I would be concerned, like, what they would do with him. Would they put him in another horror setting? Would he be in Gyron still? Would he somehow get out of Gyron and go to another realm to do stuff?
I think you could do a good horror story of his past coming back to get him.
Right.
Yeah, obviously there is something supernatural in his past because of the fact that he can see the Geists and everything that happens later on with the Kurnoth. There is something else there.
So you're suggesting it would be more of if it was a horror-based kind of thing, it would be more of the Geist chasing him rather than the Stormcast? Because I think maybe you could do something with a Stormcast host, well, not a host, but like a hunter or something, trying to get him and have like a Terminator-esque story.
You could do that route, yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely. I was thinking more like the Geists of everyone he's ever killed coming after him.
Yeah, that could work as well.
Yeah, just being sort of tortured, make it into like a proper Victorian horror ghost story where it's driving somebody mad rather than spooky rah-rah.
Right, yeah.
So, sorry, I've lost where we are.
We were doing gambling with Gint.
Oh, gambling with Gint.
Gambling with Gint.
What did you think of Gint's introduction?
I was like 100% convinced he was a Slaanesh worshipper or a Tzeentch worshipper. 100% convinced because he kept winning at cards all the time and cheating. I was like, I think he was talking about fate, I think, or...
Yeah.
I kept saying stuff like that, and I don't know whether it was the inflection that the the narrator was doing, but there was something about it where I was like, is he a chaos worshipper? Because I wouldn't be shocked. Because he seemed very tolerant of like saying, "Oh, you a supporter of old bones or whatever, elder bones." And I was
Elder
like,
bones, yeah.
I was like, you can't be like, if you're a chaos worshipper, you'd probably be like, "Oh yeah, whatever. I worship the chaos gods, so who am I to poke?" So to hear a normal human do that took me a bit of a surprise. Obviously, we find out he wasn't. But you're right, he was a nice bit of levity to the story, because, yeah, even in the darker story, just a little bit of levity's appreciated, because then it makes the rest of the horror worse.
Yeah, you need that juxtaposition between the two. If you've got a bit of comedy that's then backed up by horror, or vice versa, each of them seems a bit better. Unfortunately, that's been taken to like the nth degree in horror films these days.
Oh, yeah.
Because there isn't a separation between the two. You know, it's one of those things that drives me insane in slasher movies where people's murders are slightly funny.
Yeah.
Because you've ruined both the humour and the horror. You know, you don't get an emotional reaction to it. And that's why you kind of engage with works of media in order to get a emotional reaction from. Unless, of course, you're watching, like, you know, Real Housewives or Four in a Bed, you know.
My God, the true horrors.
I've had to put up with Real Housewives last couple of nights, so I'm ready to kill.
I guess it was also a good thing that Gint really, the only times Haran interacted with him was in the local inn or tavern, because Gint rarely, like, from our perspective, because we always follow Blackwood, we never see Gint go out and do these things that he apparently does. We only see when Blackwood comes back and sees him kind of just chilling out by the fire. Sometimes he hasn't moved, and he's just been talking to the people at the inn, and sometimes he's gone out. And I guess that makes the inn feel safer as well, because it's like, that's your only source of levity. There's the character who's not as hostile as everybody else, and he's making jokes, and you're like, okay, it's safe here. It's like your safe room in Resident Evil. That music plays. And you're like, oh, I'm alright here. Yeah. It's not true later on in the story when stuff starts really kicking off, but
yeah.
That's not too much later.
Well, let's jump forward a little bit to when he arrives in Wald. How are you pronouncing that?
I say Wald. I think that's how... Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's how the narrator said it. He said Wald. But Wald, you know.
Wald.
Mjolnir, Mew Mew, you know. However you want to say it, I suppose.
Walid.
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 God, that would be annoying. Can you imagine all of the times, ooh, come here, dearie, gone to Walid. You what?
Oh, yeah, I've got myself a bright new job as a guard over in Walid.
I'm going to have an eel. An eel butty.
I'm going to have an eel and mud butty. Oh, yeah. That's what I like. I like eel and mud
What did you have for breakfast? I had eel cereal.
Oh, you mean Ariel?
Oh, my God, yeah, with eel milk. How do you milk an eel? You know, you just got to find a nipple in your jug.
But you managed to milk eels? Yes. It's not pleasant for me, it's not pleasant for the eel, and you won't enjoy drinking it. Bye!
Do you think, here's a silly question, do you think in Wald that there are multiple eel shops, or do you think there's just like one eel shop? Yeah, like the one shop has the monopoly on selling eels? I
think there's probably a top eel, which is the place that everyone goes for the fine eels.
The finest of eels.
Yeah. But then you get like the wandering eel seller, you know, who just walks around, bring out your eels! I'll buy any unused eel.
Jesus.
And then,
he'd be stocked. He'd always be stocked, because they'd had naught but eels.
Using eels as both currency, food, and clothing.
Did they use them as candles? Because I know in Bloodborne, in the fishing hamlet, there was loads of like these weird slugs, and they used the slugs for candles, which was weird.
I think I think the eel's too wet to burn, and I think the air.
Not true.
And I think the air is too wet to burn, and
That's true. Yeah.
I think that this place in Ghyran, this damp, horrible little swamp, is probably the least flammable area in the entirety of Ghyran.
Yeah, I think Haran mentioned quite a few times he'd never been as wet as he had been there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love the fact that they make the rain into a character in itself.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it gives it such a horrible, damp, disgusting feeling.
Mm-hmm.
But then they did the same with Weld as well. Weld is, it's a character, the way that the town works and the way that the people and the civilization and the society works in it. It's all tied in just this horribly, I can't use any other word other than dour. It's just so horribly dour.
Yeah.
I remember isn't there a bit about kids just chasing a dog through the streets?
Yeah, do you know what that reminded me of straight away?
Oh, yes I do.
Yeah,
Mouth of Madness.
Yep, yeah, as soon as that happened I was like, that's in the Mouth of Madness.
Mm-hmm.
That's 100% in the Mouth of Madness.
Yeah, which gives you another feeling, doesn't it, of,
oh, yeah.
I don't want to be in this town. I don't want to be here. This is a bad place to be. This is not where I like to be. This is not where I want to spend my summer holidays. Bye!
I wonder if that was a deliberate reference to In the Mouth of Madness by Josh Reynolds, or if it was just like a happy coincidence, like because it's a good visual.
I think it's just because it's a good visual.
Yeah.
Because if he did that, then you'd have thought there would have been more references to it. It's such a strange single reference to have.
Yeah.
So he turns up in Walid, and unfortunately that sounds like an Arabic greeting. Mashkila, Walid. Which is, don't worry, be happy.
Oh, that's nice.
Mm-hmm. So, what you kind of find here is this horrible, sour, distrusting village full of sour, horrible, distrusting villagers. I mean, they are all varying levels of awful.
Yeah.
There is nobody nice or happy here. I mean, the first time you meet the lord of the area, the lord of the land, what were your feelings on that scene?
He's very naked.
He's
very naked as he was as they were going on a hunt on a human who had some sort of animal. I can't remember what the animal was called, but the skin of said animal sewn onto him. Mm-hmm. And him and his bunch of lads were going hunting in the nude, as was the style of the time, I assume. Because it's all part of the cultish rituals that they have going on for the Sylvaneth, so it all kind of ties in eventually. But yeah, like coming across 3 or 4 guys on horseback nude chasing another human being, it makes you go, oh. So it's run by a crazy person. This is like that's our introduction to the first, second, apart from the old woman, the second person. So if the Lord's this crazy, the normal townsfolk probably aren't going to be much better, one would assume.
Did you get the feeling that, my God, you must be freezing?
I mean, it's so wet there, it couldn't have been warm.
No.
I guess the thrill of the hunt keeps your cockles warm.
Your what, sorry?
Your cockles.
Oh, right, sorry, I misheard.
Oh, did you? You might not have.
No, well, who knows? It's not like this is being recorded.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
So, you mentioned the Sylvaneth. Shall we talk about the Sylvaneth and how the Sylvaneth are being portrayed in this book?
Yes. Because had their new codex came out, or army book, came out before this or after this?
It was just before, I think.
Yeah, so it was clearly written.
Yeah. I mean, there is a hand-in-hand approach going on here where the Sylvaneth are being moved into a much more fey area. They are the horrible little fairies that steal your children. One of the bits I really like when the Sylvaneth is when they're talking about the Sylvaneth around Greywater Fastness and how much they hate humans. They hate humans so much it hurts.
Yeah.
It burns them. And that's why they kind of stand away from the road, just screaming and putting them off and just doing everything they can to make the humans feel uncomfortable.
They're good allies, aren't they?
It's one of the interesting things I think about if you go through the entirety of the Order Grand Alliance, right? You've got the Stormcast, which are basically mind-wiped warriors that are entirely devoted to Sigmar.
Mm-hmm.
You've got the Cities of Sigmar. All right, they're people. Some of them are not good people.
Yeah.
Greywater Fastness is not a good place. It burns the trees around them in order to make more weapons of war.
Don't they also do that because the trees keep coming in?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know who started it, whether it was them burning the trees that really kind of pissed them off, or if it was the trees.
What came first, Andy? The Sylvaneth or the fire?
It's hard to say. We need a law book. It was probably the people, though.
Yeah,
Because I can't
so.
imagine the settlement was there beforehand.
No, it wasn't. Grey Water Fastness is one of those ones that's appeared after the Realm Gate Wars and the realms were being repopulated.
Yeah.
I've forgotten what I was saying again. My God, I'm not doing well here.
So, Sylvaneth, Grey Water Fastness pushing in.
I mean, there's a really cool thing about the roads where there's an alliance taking place where they cannot get onto the roads. They're not allowed to go onto the roads, so they just stand away from the roads. But anyway, what I was actually saying was that you look at orders. You've got the Stormcast, you've got the Cities of Sigmar, you've got the Sylvaneth, which are neutral, chaotic at best.
Yeah, I get that's a good way to put them. I think. Yeah, they're definitely not lawful.
No, you've got the Seraphon.
We don't know. I don't think we know enough about them, do we?
The Seraphon. I mean, they're kind of all over the place. I haven't got the new Seraphon army book, so I don't know what they're doing with them now. I'm hoping that the entire
neutral, right? At least from what I remember from the Silver Shard, they seem like they're definitely in the lawful kind of spectrum, but
yeah,
they're not. I don't know if they're good.
No, I don't think so.
They might be good from their own perspective, I suppose.
I'm hoping they've got rid of the entire Maid of Starlight thing, because that didn't work.
Yeah, it's a bit silly.
Who else you got? The Ideneth Deepkin?
They're not good. They're sea vampires, basically.
Yeah. The Lumineth, which we don't really know enough of.
What's the Lumineth?
The new elves.
Oh, sorry, you're using fancy terms. Spoopy elves with their silly elephants.
Yes.
And cowmen.
Oh, I love the Cow Mountains. So good. Is that everything?
Dark elves.
Oh yeah.
Two of those factions, I suppose.
Yeah, you've got snake elf women.
Yeah, they're not good.
No. Well, one ate the bloody god of murder, and then.
To be fair, I wouldn't consider that an evil act.
Yeah, it's to take his power, though, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's just it's like murder on murder. It's like, you've replaced one murder god with arguably something as bad. So what can you do? And then we've got Malekith's group. It's not Malekith, isn't it? What's his Malarion? Is that his new name?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, the entirety of Order isn't very ordered.
No, I suppose it's a tenuous alliance because everybody hates chaos for the most part.
Yeah, and if you ask me, the only truly honest army in the entirety of Age of Sigmar are the Oryx.
I don't know, Death's pretty honest.
I suppose, actually.
Nagash is pretty honest with what he wants. Giving me souls back.
He's not exactly lying to people, is he?
No.
So, right. I wish I'd written stuff down because I keep losing track of where I'm at. So, yeah, Wald.
Yes.
Going back to Wald. At the beginning of him turning up in Wald, something starts happening. A series of events that lead him to be hunted and haunted, I think is going to be the best way of describing it, throughout the woods. You've got a cult, basically, not just within the people of the town, but also within the Sylvaneth of the Woods. And that cult is of a... I mean, you don't find this out till later on in the book, but I think we might as well just get into this now, because it's such an amazing piece. What you basically get is something that feels like it came from the old world. Yeah, it doesn't feel like it fits in 100% with what we've seen of the Sylvaneth and Age of Sigmar. It is a proper beast of the woods. Do you remember what it's called?
Isn't it Kurnoth the Hunter?
It is literally just Kurnoth the Hunter, isn't it? It isn't
I'm pretty sure. I mean, they say it's like, oh, he's got many names, and I know one of them is the Great Stag. Is one of them. That's the one most people say because they say, oh, don't say his real name. He's Voldemort. He is.
Well, it's an interesting little throwback because they talk about how he was hidden away, he was locked away, and then it was the existence of Wald kind of brought him back out, wasn't it? There was a series of events that happened that got him freed.
Yeah, Alariel put him away because he was I think he was too aggressive or too violent or something akin to that. And I think one of the Lord of Wald's ancestors, if not him, then someone else, because I think there was always a cult, but I don't think it was as prevalent until the Lord kind of came into power because he never worshipped Alariel.
Yeah, yeah.
And thus all these things, all these subtle changes in the village started happening, like the ritual hunts and stuff like that, all kind of feeding into the power base, of Reawakening. Again, I think we're going with Kurnoth. But I don't know why, I always pictured him, even though he wasn't ever described as this, as, do you remember Orion?
Yep, yeah.
That's how I always pictured him, just with, like, the legs of I was going to say a moose, but it's not a moose. A stag.
Well, let this moose person around this hoose person.
Exactly.
I actually saw it as like almost more like a tree bowl, I think is the best way to describe it.
A tree bowl.
A tree bowl, like a...
Oh, I thought you said bowl, like something that you put your shreddies into, and I was like, that was weird.
No. Tree bowl.
With moose legs.
Well, how else are you going to eat your aerials?
Exactly, you got to have a bowl, even if it is a god.
You got a tree bowl. But yeah, I saw it as being more of like a bull centaur type creature, you know, four-legged and running.
Yeah. I think the reason I kept associating it with a lot of the looks of Orion was because Orion was the hunter, as far as I can remember. And usually my brain goes to Total War Warhammer to associate as much stuff that I don't know about as possible. So I don't know a huge amount about the Wood Elves, so that's kind of where my mind flows to. Because he was described as looking real freaky, kind of a lot with moss hanging down him. Maybe even looking a bit like like Orion and like your bull guy, but then made all out of wood, almost like a really creepy Treebeard from Lord of the Rings.
Yeah, just not as slow. He's a lot faster and a lot more lithe,
and not as kind looking as they say multiple times. A lot of the teeth of the Sylvaneth are jagged, like splinters and shards of wood just shaped into massive points, which is horrifying. It's almost like there was a couple of times where the description of some of the Sylvaneth made me think of the Little Monster in My Pocket tree. If you remember that.
Yes,
popped
I know.
Into my head a few times.
Yep, I know exactly what you're saying there.
Yeah.
That's cool. I couldn't help but also think of Mortal Kombat a lot of the time in this with that the tree faces.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
But one of the things I really like about the book is the way that Reynolds writes. It feels like you should be able to turn a corner and have like Ian Miller artwork just dotted around the book. Yeah, it feels very, very old Hammer. It's weird. It's strange for that because it is an AOS book and all of the terminology is from Age of Sigmar. But the way he's written it feels like one of those old pre-Black Library books, like the Orfeo trilogy or something like that.
Right.
It's a shame that the Orfeo trilogy is something that will never get any form of re-release because they are fantastic and they are just gruesome.
Oh, well, we got Drakenfels.
We got Drakenfels.
Yeah.
Oof.
So never say never. I mean, it might happen. You know, the potential isn't high, I grant you, but we didn't think we'd get Skaven Slayer, and that came out recently.
Hey, that's true, and that's amazing.
It's so good. So good.
I think at some point what I'd like to do, Andy, is sit you down and just do like sort of 20-minute reviews on each book.
That could be fun. I'd be down with that.
Each of the Slayer books.
Yeah.
Going through it again, I've just remembered how much I love how these books started. But anyhow, the Sylvaneth in this, they are incredibly old feeling. They don't feel like a army of tree people that rises up and then turns up on the battlefield. They feel like creatures of myth. They feel like creatures of story, but they're so real that the human brain can't quite deal with them.
Again, kind of dipping back into the Lovecraft aspect, I suppose, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely, yeah. I mean, there's points where Aaron talks about what he sees. It's do you remember when they're all kind of around him, and there's that one Sylvaneth that's kind of talking to him?
Is that the one that's built into the house?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And you kind of, as he sort of describes what's happening, there's a mutability in how he's describing it. Like the brain's just kind of shifting and trying to make sense of the stuff that's happening around him.
He didn't want to look at it either, did he?
No.
His eyes didn't want to focus on it.
No.
Yeah, again, that kind of stuff's really interesting because you try and conceive of like your eyes not wanting to look at something, and I guess my brain goes to, like, you try and look at the sun and your eyes are just like, no, don't look at that. No, it's just wrong, don't do it.
Yeah.
I loved how Josh would describe how it would smell as well, because it would just apparently reek of, like, sap and sweetness, but not like, oh, this is tasty sweet, like, just aggressive. Like, I associated it with, like, candy popcorn and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay.
There was this one point where one of the family got, like, sweet popcorn, and it stank the house up, and I couldn't stay in the same room as they were eating it because it was so aggressive.
Mm-hmm. See, I thought of it as like when you get a backed up sewer after a flood, where there's nowhere you can go where the smell isn't there.
I thought you were suggesting that that's the sweet smell. I was like, hang on a tick.
No. I was more meaning as in you cannot escape it. It's there, you know.
Yeah.
That's
you
what it put me in mind
the smell. Yeah, agreed, yeah.
As we've kind of like got off the beaten track here, which is fine, what parts of the book spring out to you as parts that you think are worth talking about?
Well, like you said, him encountering the large Sylvaneth kind of Alarial-aligned tree.
Yeah.
Which was the part we were talking about there. As we find out later on in the book, she's part of the more so Alarial group who are trying to keep the hunter, the great stag, asleep from keeping him awake. And the discussion between Haran and her, like, oh, I really want to kill you. It feels so good to squish fleshy things between our fingers and have the blood soak our roots. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's nice, but you could keep it to yourself, I suppose. I don't need to know this. The entire exchange was creepy. Him being pulled into the water by almost like a mountain of Sylvaneth dragging him down into the waters, and the bigotry lady pulls him up and like, oh, kids, what are you going to do? They're young. They just wanted to kill you. Again, kind of that intent of the boss being like, oh, if I wasn't here, you'd be dead. Mm-hmm. Like you said, the palpable hatred of humanity. Again, is quite a thing. Because as soon as you get into the woods, did you take it as all trees could become Sylvaneth, or specific trees are Sylvaneth? Because I wasn't sure on the if it was almost like a spiritual possession of the tree body that makes the Sylvaneth. Again, that's probably something in an army book more so than
how
in the book.
I understand it is that some trees are grown to be Sylvaneth,
right?
But others can be soul podded, where a soul could be put into a tree to become a Sylvaneth.
Right, but it's not like it's malleable, like a spirit could jump from tree body to tree body.
Not to my knowledge, but then who knows?
Right. I wasn't sure. Because I
quite like that as an idea, though, as a concept.
Because it makes the idea of a forest incredibly intimidating, because every tree could be a Sylvaneth at any point.
Yeah.
Like, if you destroyed one body, it could jump to another tree right next to you or further away. Mm-hmm. And then it means that every tree's looking at you, which is, I mean, you get that feeling anyway, that the trees are always watching.
Well, the trees are always on the side of the Sylvaneth.
Yeah, that's the thing, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like the trees are going, oh, humans and Sylvaneth, what are they like? Mm-hmm. It's always, nah, these are my brothers.
Yeah, they're like the more passive, but they're still there as a force in a sense.
Yeah.
The eyes and ears of the Sylvaneth.
Mm-hmm. And I think the trees are a part of why the entire environment is so oppressive. They kind of drag the mood down because they're not like super bright, colourful blossoms here, are they?
No, it doesn't seem like that's the thing.
There are all these hanging willows and things like that. You know, the weeping willows and great big drooping oaks. Ugh. Yeah.
You get the feeling that the trees might. There's maybe something about the trees just in general which, if they didn't hate people as much as they did the trees, even though they'd probably be the same type of tree, maybe there'd just be something about the atmosphere that would be less oppressive.
Yeah.
What was a part that you enjoyed then, that drew your attention?
One of the bits that always springs to mind, thinking about the book, is Haran running. And the entire sequence of events where he hears the voice in his head. Because it's
which part? Because I know
it happens a couple of times. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's any time it happens, really.
Oh, right.
It's,
okay.
Because the sense of fear that comes when these events start happening. I mean, they feel almost like really well done QuickTime events in a horror game.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, where it's like the Kurnoth is coming. It's got to go, got to get away from it now. And the voice in his head starts to basically suck the strength out of him. And it wears him down and tells him lies surrounded by truth and truth surrounded by lies. And it's such a horrific moment where he's trying to physically get himself to a safe place, but also mentally trying to keep himself sane, keep himself going. It's like that fight on two levels. And you just know that this thing's not even wanting to try its hardest. It's just playing with him.
Yeah, because it mentions quite a few times in those sequences that I'm not going to get you yet, but he would always feel like the breath on the back of his neck or hear the whisper in his ear.
Yeah. It's the idea this thing it's so big but so silent.
And he still, even when Kurnoth decides to get him, he still wasn't ripe, as he said.
What do you think that meant?
I don't know, because I thought at one point it almost suggested that he was meant to be a Stormcast, but then wasn't a Stormcast anymore. And maybe that's why he wasn't right, because maybe the Hunter was hoping he would have an aspect of Sigmar within him, as the Stormcast seemed to. And maybe that had been removed if he'd be... But I don't think we've ever had a story where someone's become a Stormcast and then been evicted, shall we say, from the Order, which could be an interesting route if they ever go down that road.
Yeah, actually it would be. But
it would open a huge aspect of like, oh, so they can kind of come back, but maybe not. It surely has something to do with his past and him, because he mentions a few times that he's killed Stormcast.
Yeah.
Or a Stormcast, at least.
Yeah, a single Stormcast.
Or maybe it's something to do with his misery.
I got the feeling that it was not picking a road. That he hadn't gone full Sigmarite, or he hadn't gone full Chaos.
Oh, right. So it's like, so you were taking it more as he hasn't chosen his fate yet, in a sense.
Yeah.
And one fate would be more scrumptious than the other for a god to eat.
I think it's more, just picking one would make him ripe. It would make him, because it's the story of the Zealot. The Zealot who has no path is directionless. And that's a lot of what Harren is throughout the book. He is directionless. He's very reactive.
Right.
There's very few times up until the point where he hits Weld where he makes decisions, like decisive decisions there and then. It's a lot of I'll get told what to do, what my job is, and I'll go do it.
Yeah.
He just kind of like drifts through life after his time of being a warrior priest. When he gets to Weld, he starts becoming more decisive and starts making more decisions on which direction to turn. Is it I'm going to destroy my past, or is it I'm going to help my friend? Yeah, there's the sequence where his friend turns up, and he kind of finds out the story there, which I'm not going to get into because I can't remember the entire thing about it now. But from that point forward, he starts making more decisions that kind of err towards not destroying his past. And I think that's kind of where it comes down to. Where is it that the Kurnoth wants him to get his feet onto the path and start becoming the person he could be or should be, rather than the directionless person he is.
And almost kind of take away, like if he goes on the right path, as you say, Kurnoth can then take away that potential and almost feed on on what he's stolen from Harren, who was going to become something potentially, I guess.
I think potential is the perfect word for it.
Yeah.
The Kurnoth wants to feed on his potential, wants to feed on his... the other way of looking at it is it that the Kurnoth wants Harren to be completely despondent? Is it the despondency that he's after for food, for nourishment?
Oh, kind of feed on despair. I wouldn't imagine so, because
no,
I imagine
I don't see that.
enough. I imagine Wald has enough like depressed people in there already.
But then that's the question: is it like that? So the Kurnoth gets his power. Has he created this environment of complete despondency in order to feed himself?
Yeah. I mean, we could be completely wrong, and this is maybe answered later on. Doesn't when he was talking to Haran about his ripeness, doesn't he? I think he mentioned something about other powers and other factions being interested in someone like Haran as well, right?
Yeah, which is what makes me think about the path.
The potential. Yeah. I think that I wouldn't be surprised if that was something, because I've seen that kind of done in other media, and I think the idea of taking someone's potential is a very powerful thing. Like, if you take a real life person, if you killed Martin Luther King before as a child, that would have huge ramifications for everything, because you would take away a massive influential person that would then have a massive ripple effect on the world, and that potential could be very powerful. It seems almost more like a Tzeentch thing to do, being a weaver of fate and something, but I guess in this world, souls have power, and someone who would have more of a ripple effect probably has a more valuable soul.
You're getting into the metaphysics of the mortal realms here, and the metaphysics of the mortal realms is always a little bit up in the air. There's no... It's not like there is a strict give and take binary system in place for the mortal realms. It's the idea of prophecy, potential, souls. These intangible things all have extreme power, but they seem to have it because people believe that they have it. City Secrets, for example, the idea of using prophecy as currency. Yeah, that's a weird idea until you see how it works. And it works because there is a shard of Tzeentchian artifact buried beneath the city, and so prophecy is abundant. So, the more prophecies that you have and you can give to people, the richer you are and the higher in people's esteem you are. It's the same as any kind of economics. If you can get yourself to a position where you have more of something than anyone else, you are instantly seen as being rich because you have all of this potential to do more with it.
Right.
It's where economics begins.
Learning economics, the Age of Sigmar way.
Yeah, well, but that in this idea, there's a little bit of an undercurrent of what Haran's potential could be. I mean, I think you're absolutely right. I think there's the chance that he should have been a Stormcast, and he turned away from the Sigmarite path before getting to that point, before he could be killed in the line of duty. And it's probably because he would have been killed in the line of duty that he turned away. And he fell in with the criminal gang that he did. Not just the criminal gang, but also the gang of people that he was with who they were doing whatever they were doing. You get the feeling that they were doing illegal things, don't you?
Oh, yeah. At the very least, they were maybe like loan sharks, very least.
Yeah, I was thinking possibly like mercenaries, but I feel it's probably more illegal than that. But also, there is that undercurrent of he doesn't seem to know what he wants himself. And it's just easier to be an arm breaker than it is to live up to his own ideals and his own potential of what he could be.
Yeah, I mean, at that point, you're a henchman. You're told what to do. Go break this guy's arms or legs and get me my money back, and that's all you have to do. Just get him his money by any means you have to.
What did you think of the narrator, by the way?
Oh, good, yeah. Who was it off the top of my head? I don't know.
I did have it written down. Oh, this is going to be so much editing.
Because I think I've heard him on multiple things before. He's good.
Jake Uri.
Yeah, he's good. I really like Jake's work. He might have been on some other books, but yeah, he left a strong impression. He was able to do a good number of voices and give characters a good sense of life to them.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about the voice he gave Haran?
I feel that was probably it was a good choice. I don't think it was a strain on him.
No.
I think that obviously it was a deliberate choice, but it conveyed that it didn't feel like he was a man you should mess with. Mm-hmm. It in my mind crafted an idea of a very craggy looking man, like lots of lines on his face.
Face like a tire track.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
What about yourself? I couldn't help but think of Haran as looking like Lance Hendrickson.
Oh yeah, he's very liney, isn't he? Yeah, I can see that.
There was something in the voice that made me think of Lance Hendrickson.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Circa the second season of Millennium.
I've never seen that, so I'll just nod and agree.
You've never seen Millennium?
Nope.
Chris Carter's Good Show?
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Consider me shocked.
I'll paint you shocked.
Is there anything else that you want to discuss about the book? Any other parts?
The dream sequences in the, green, that they were really interesting, terrifying dreams of Haran being held down by a female Sylvaneth.
Yeah.
And being, like, flayed. And not even flayed, it was just all bits of chunks being cut off of him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like you were making bacon out of a pig.
Yeah, exactly. And obviously it was a dream, so he couldn't do anything, but he could feel it, apparently, which is even more horrifying.
Yeah. I think we're not going to get into the entire payoff of the book, because I do want people to go and read it themselves. But just because I'm aware that we're over an hour now, would you say that this is a book that you would recommend to people?
Yes.
And if you were going to recommend it, how would you recommend it?
In terms of what? What do you mean by how I would recommend it?
So if you were talking to somebody and they said, oh, I really want to get into some Age of Sigmar horror. Mm-hmm. Or, I want to get into some Age of Sigmar novelizations. Or, some fiction. How would you say, read this?
For the people who are looking for horror, I'd say it's a unpleasant, oppressive story that has a bit of gore to it as well, and you never feel comfortable listening to it or reading it, which is what you should be looking for a horror. And for someone who's trying to get into just the fiction, I'd say it's not too heavy on ancillary kind of information like. I remember jumping into the Horus Heresy and hearing a lot of terminology I didn't know, and so I found some of it quite hard to know what was going on. Then I had to kind of go online and find what's an Astartes, what's a Cataphracte armor kind of stuff. With this, there isn't really much terminology that's hard to know. Maybe Fireslayer, you could. I think they do enough description that you get a general idea of what things look like at the very least.
Yeah, I mean, they describe the Fireslayer as being huge even by his standard, by the standards of his race. Muscled to the point where he almost became a parody of the human form.
Yeah. So that's more than enough for you to get a good idea of what it is. And there's no, like, weird magical runes or weapons that you couldn't... I don't think you could have a difficulty figuring out what they'd look like in your mind or anything like that.
No, and I think that's one of the big strengths of the book, is that it's a really simple through line of what they're doing. There's no point where he finds a magical sword to go off and kill everything with or anything like that. It's very, very low tech, for want of a better term.
Yes, that's a good term for it, low tech. Yeah, because even like talking about the Stormcast, it's because they're not like a huge relevant plot point. That continuously like bludgeons you over the head with like, what's a Stormcast? What's a Stormcast? It's just like a side thing which you could again maybe not 100% grasp what a Stormcast looks like or anything like that, but you get a good gist of what it's like.
Yeah.
That's why it's probably one of the easier books just to jump into for AOS, because I'm not sure any of the, apart from, as we said at the start, the kind of Stormcast Realmgate Wars was generally not very interesting. I think you needed to know a little bit about things before jumping into it.
Yeah, and I think the problem with the Realmgate Wars books is that they're almost cartoony. It's not the right word to use, but you know what I mean. There's a certain two-dimensional brightness to them.
Yeah, they're kind of simple. I don't want to say simple either.
No, it's not the right word. But
no, but yeah, it's I guess that's what you're kind of trying to convey as well with the cartoony feeling, right?
Yeah.
It's not simple, but maybe it's because our standards have been raised by really good Black Library books, and we go, compared to those, it's simple. Maybe that's it.
Maybe it could just be that simplicity kind of upsets it a little bit. I mean, the sequences in there, like when they meet Manfred.
I like that.
Yeah, it's a really, really good part of the book. But if you look at that with a critical eye, it's meet Manfred. Manfred insults them. They let Manfred out.
Yeah.
And why does all this happen? Because Manfred has to get out in order to do the battle. Why does the battle have to happen? Because you need an action scene.
Yeah, unfortunately with those ones, you've got the problems of those being audio dramas, so you've got to fit all this stuff in within 40 minutes, I guess.
Yeah.
Even harder.
Which is problematic, to say the least. when you compare that to Dark Harvest, City of Secrets, Collis and Tolliver. There's another one actually. Let me just get my list out.
While you find a list, I will say that the great thing about those stories, which I think you've touched on in the main show and whatnot beforehand, is because they're not like these grand, massive armies fighting each other. You get a better sense of world building because it's not focusing on massive armies kind of smashing together. It's more of an intimate story between the character and world and the other characters that they're against. There's something nice about it. It's why I've really been enjoying the Gotrek stuff as well recently, because it's not. There's a child picking up his toys and smashing them against each other with then a story around it. It's just focused.
There's one called Castle of Blood, which I would recommend, by the way.
Is that an audiobook?
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's quite a good Warhammer Horror one, but I'm looking for one in particular. Have you come across Beastgrave yet?
Don't think so.
I would say Beastgrave is worth a punt.
Is that an AOS one as well?
Yeah.
Audiobook or audio drama?
Audiobook.
Oh.
But there is a certain collection which
Black Talon First Mark, I don't remember, was terrible. I think that was okay. Oh, Beastgrave. You said Beastgrave was good.
Yeah.
I think I remember asking you about Beastgrave before, and you were like, and I think it must have been before you started reading it.
Yeah. It starts slow.
Right.
But by the time you get halfway through it, it really picks up and becomes something interesting.
Oh, okay.
Once you get to Beastgrave.
Oh, right, okay.
Once
it's a place.
Once you get to the mountain, it really picks up.
Oh, interesting.
But, God damn it, Brain, you are shite.
You've got a lot going on.
It's been a very busy day.
Eight
Lamentations, that's the one.
8 Lamentations.
Yeah.
Okay.
So 8 Lamentations is, there are 8 magical artifacts and shall we say, a certain spirit has brought together some people as his hunters, as his quest finders, to go out and find these different artifacts.
Yeah.
And the one that's on Audible, it's all about a village under attack by skin wolves, which are the werewolves of Khorne.
Oh, okay.
I want these things to turn up in the main fiction because they're amazing. But it's a really, really good short story.
Right.
So I would recommend the 8 Lamentations to anyone. I really like them.
Neat.
So there is really good AOS stuff out there now. It's starting to happen over the last sort of 2 years. They've moved away from the noble, bright Stormcast everywhere to a lot darker. And I think it happened about the same time that Soul Wars came out, where the books have started getting a lot darker. Did you see the novella series?
Which ones were they?
They are really short books that you get for like $2.99.
Oh, I've probably seen them go up, but because they're $2.99 ones and have one audio credit, I'm just like, nah.
Oh, no, they're not out on Audible yet, unfortunately.
Oh, then I definitely haven't seen them then.
It's a massive shame, actually. I would like for somebody to do like the entire novella series as a single Audible release, because some of them are really good.
That sounds like a 12 Days of Fluffmas.
Yeah, but because they're still available to buy, I don't really want to do them.
Oh, that's fair. Yeah,
that's
that's Dancing with the Devil in the Pale Moonlight.
Yeah, I'm very careful with what I read out. If it's something that's available to sell, I ain't doing it. Apart from Last Church, I did Last Church, but there we go. But yeah, in that there's 2 books that I think are really worth reading. One is about a dark elf pirate queen. Which is a really interesting short story. Short novel. And there's another one which is a chaos, I don't want to say god, like a chaos spirit trapped inside a bastion that's under siege by ghouls.
Right.
And the stuff that happens in that book reminds me a lot of Dark Harvest, where it's a collection of just horror, just horrible, dark things happening to people, and you don't feel that you're ever going to get out of it. I can't remember the name of the book now. It's over there on the other side of the wall, but I'm not standing up to go and look.
No, it's fine.
So, Is there anything else that you want to mention about it?
I don't know what format's best it consumed in, because I suppose that's always a personal preference. But I was really happy that it came out in an audio way.
Yeah, I think the audiobook's better than the actual book.
Oh, why would you say that?
Because the guy who reads it, Jake, he's got a real timbre to his voice. There's a lot of depth and range in how he portrays the things that are being said. And I think that it gives it a lot. I think the book itself is really, really good. Don't get me wrong. If you're not an audiobook guy, then that's fine. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, sure. But
if you want to really get a very cinematic experience, I recommend the audiobook.
Yeah, it's very well done.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and it's like 11, 12 hours, something like that.
11 hours, 30 minutes.
Yeah, it's a good long one.
Yeah. So I would recommend doing that way. But sure. if you prefer reading, go for the reading. It's a really good book to read.
Definitely.
All right. I think then with all of that, we are going to bounce ourselves out of here. So Andy, would you like to pimp yourself out?
Sure. You can find me talking about Transformers and other stuff on the Moonbase 2 podcast, iTunes, Facebook, Libsyn, Twitter, places like that. And you can also find my YouTube channel when I very, very rarely do things, which is the Cobra Commander TFW. Or you can head over to ccbunker.weebly.com as well if you want to go for a podcast that way as well.
Excellent stuff. Obviously, you know all the stuff that I do because you're listening to this and you're a Patreon. So, yes. Good on you. You're my friend. I will come round to your house and make you a barbecue.
Will you give them an eel pie?
I'm going to give you just fried eel.
There we go. Perfect.
We'll find out how old the eel is by cutting it in half and counting the rings. Sweet mother of God, I'm so tired. I'm so tired. Right. Thank you very much, Andy. It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, as always, very happy to be on.
And hopefully we'll get back together and we'll do something else down the line.
No, definitely. I hope so.
So with that then, you guys take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Since the org incident, all the naturals have been more insolent. So bring your instruments, let's make this shindig a bit more intimate. Ask Icarus, the gods are sick of us making a new rib from dust. The Lord made man in his own image, and this visage isn't really how he pictured us. Stars shine over the apartheid of our time. I can't lie, each side's only half right. Every atom has a half-life, every atom has a dark side. Damn, what happened last night? The apartheid of our time. I can't lie, each side's only half right. Every atom has a half-life, every atom has a dark side. In every nation, segregation is the expectation. Jensen's an agent sent to center stage to change the station. Man's machinations demand moderation. Masses need emancipation and liberation. Morality's in need of mediation. Answers to what's improvement and what's mutilation. We don't need to wait for mutation. We took over from God with our body modification. Is it folly to play Daedalus? Is it dangerous to aim for the place where the angel is? Ask Icarus, the gods are sick of us making a new rib from dust. The Lord made man in his own image, and this visage isn't really how he pictured us. Stars shine over the apartheid of our time. I can't lie, each side's only half right. Every atom has a half-life, every atom has a dark side. Damn, what happened last night? The apartheid of our time. I can't lie, each side's only half right. Every atom has a half-life, every atom has a dark side. I am a bit fractious, ramming in praxis. Kids still a react, anaphylaxis. I cannot relax since coming back from the blackness. Snapping your back as if I'm snapping a matchstick. I'm a black hat packer with a fat chip sat on my shoulder, revolving the ratchet, holding a hatchet, losing hold of control to the bat shit. Am I a man or just a soul in a gadget? I sit and think when I go to the latrine. When I die, am I a ghost in the machine? Is there a code between a hope and a dream? If not for the neuropathy, I'm sober and clean. Sneaking around halls and I'm peeking around corners, thinking about, bringing about peace, law and order. We form the law before the steep disorder in the streets, cause I don't really want to be the enforcer. But I will if I'm made to stay in check. Ideas are contagious, they infect. But mind what you're saying, who it may affect. If life is a game, then it's Deus Ex. Ask Icarus, the gods are sick of us making a new rib from dust. The Lord made man in his own image, and this visage isn't really how he pictured us. Stars shine over the apartheid of our time. I can't lie, each side's only half right. Every atom has a half-life, every atom has a dark side. Damn, what happened last night? The apartheid of our time. I can't lie, each side's only half right. Every atom has a half-life, every atom has a... I am nobody, I am everybody. Don't remember when there was someone who ever loved me. I am nobody, yet there's 47 of me, blended like a true clone, and never collect the money.